We are having fun with technology.
Mercury is retrograde.
Yes. So, I want to welcome my wonderful friend Stella to talk with us about astrology and the weird things that we do in our heads sometimes. So, thank you for being here with us today, Stella. I'm going to let you introduce yourself however you like.
Okay. Thank you for having me.
Ah,
Uh,
so much fun.
it's just great being here with you. So I'm Stella. I was born in Sweden, and this is where I live. My mother and my father met 65, 67, something. Anyway, I'm 65. And he came from the US to study and met my mother, and here I am. So today I'm an astrologer. I call myself an astro coach because I've been a coach and a therapist for about 30 years. I have also been a professional dancer, and I'm an opera singer. So those are like four basic things that I do have done in life. I've always been on my own. I never had a corporate experience, but I have worked a lot with women in corporate, and I think that what I bring to them is the perspective from the outside. I have no idea what it is to be in corporate, and that is like a fresh way of looking at things instead of being immersed in a world. And you sometimes that's really good to get like the perspective of someone that knows what you're talking about, but I don't. So I come from the perspective of unexpected perspectives, and it really works very well. It has been good journeys for both me and my clients. So that's what I have to say for now.
That's really interesting that you talked about that aspect. And that's an area, in corporate is one of the areas where people have this whole self-destructive thing going on that you kind of wanted to bring out. So interesting
Yeah,
that part of your history touches on our topic for today.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
what? Go
Yeah, I
go
just
ahead.
okay, I'll just talk. The thing with being in corporate is that you usually, when you're a woman, you come into corporate, you come into a world that is not meant for you. It was not built for you. It was built for men. So you have to like get in there and try to adapt. And this environment can make you feel unworthy, make you feel like you have to accomplish a lot of things that might not feel really congruent with who you are. And that in itself can result in you overachieving and beating yourself over the head, that you're not doing enough, that you don't measure up, and all these things. Uh, if I go back to my previous experience as a therapist, I'm a Gestalt therapist. It's a 4-year education. And when I got out of that, totally, like I used to say, like freshly baked from the oven, still steaming. I was talented, but I was completely new, and I got a very heavy clientele from the very beginning. People mostly from the 12-step programs that had been on drugs, on alcohol, uh, food addictions of different kinds, all kinds of addictions, and horrendous stories of abuse, of sexual abuse, incest, and all, yeah, terrible stories. And in some way, it was, let me call it easy for me uh, to work with them. I was not threatened. I did not feel like I had to defend someone else or question their stories. I just went with them to see what would come out of this. And what I learned through those beginning years is that whatever you go into and whatever you deal with in life is about survival. How do you survive something that is, so to speak, unsurvivable? How do you cope with something that is uncopable? So all these things that they had gone through, their their bodies, their nervous system, their energy fields did everything in their power to make them survive. And if that was going into drugs it was. So and then I looked into this like further in my life, of course, and also in other ways of living. How do we live our lives? And I hear a lot from people, from women, that, you know, I don't measure up, I should be better at this, I should be better at that, I should blah, 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 all kinds of I shoulds. And I realized, but this, you don't have to be better, you're good, you're just good the way you are. So this is not really, you are not the problem. And however you got here is not the problem. On the contrary, the way you got here is your superpower. You got here because you had the capacities to survive. And then, of course, it looks from the outside, and I mean, if you're onto drugs, or if you have an addictive behavior, be it shopping or be it going to the gym or religion or whatever, of course, it does become destructive. But it's not to be destructive with yourself. It's about surviving something. So it really is a question of your system's genius of keeping you alive in a situation that is unlivable, sort of. So I took that experience with me and started to use it in everywhere to see, does this fit? Is this, am I onto something here? Because I was not taught this during the training, which was fabulous in so many ways, and I really live by it today. And one thing that is important in Gestalt is the presence in the now. Who am I? My body, and the fact that I encompass everything I have ever experienced. So all my memories are here. All my cellular memories are in my body. I remember everything with my body. And it's then through the years, I mean, I'm doing this for 30 years. So through the years, I've also learned that we don't necessarily need to remember everything to process it. We don't need to talk about everything all the time to process it. As a matter of fact, just talking about something could reinforce the trauma in itself. So I'm not going to even try to go into how I work, but these are my thoughts about self-destructive behavior. So if you who listen to this have this idea that you are self-destructive or that you're doing self-destructive things towards yourself, I just want to say you are still working from a position of surviving, and that can be taken care of in a gentle and loving way. Beating yourself over the head is not going to help. Telling yourself that you don't measure up that's an old program. And has nothing to do with today. But you get stuck in that old program because it worked then when life was horrendous. So you hold on to that. So when you move into corporate and you have this executive position, you're still keeping hold of what made you survive. And I'm not talking about people in corporate being, especially like on drugs or abusive behaviors. It's more like whatever you have with you that seems to look it's against you at one point in life worked for you, and then you got stuck there. I know from my own experience that's how it works.
Tell us a little bit about how you use astrology to help people understand these things.
Oh, that's a beautiful question. I can go to a very recent experience I had with myself. I prepared a presentation about Mars and how the planet Mars and its position in your chart acts as your inner warrior and fights for you, and really is part of this. You do not have any self-destructive behavior because Mars will always fight for you. And when I was looking into my own chart, because I wanted to give a live experience on my own, it was so emotional. I was not prepared for that. And I can now, when I talk about it, I can feel it again. That intense grief and also intense gratitude towards what Mars has done for me. Because there are two malefic planets in astrology. They talk about Mars as the malefic planet and then Saturn. They play both very Capricorn rising. For those that don't know anything about astrology, just ignore the lingo. So those two planets, Mars, I've always been talking about Saturn as being the planet that is like on my side, and I have like a very tender relationship with Saturn, because without Saturn I would not have survived. But while I was working with this presentation, I also realized that it is the combination of the two and how they have worked together to keep me on the planet. Now, why am I saying all of this? Because I haven't told anything about my story. I was born with a disability, club feet, which means that I had to go through a lot of very intense and painful and torturous days old. I was first put down into plastic casts on my feet. And then it was up and down for 6 months, every third to fifth day. That is a very challenging start for a baby. And then I had my first surgery, and I had surgery 5 times. I learned to walk 5 times. So just the fight, the capacity to live through that and come out on the other side, I thank my two malefics for that capacity. And then, of course, I brought all of that with me into the rest of my life. So that is one way that you can look upon it, and also get into that position of actual gratitude towards your survival mechanisms. How did I even get here? How was it even possible, considering what I went through? And a lot of times, I mean, I don't know how many times I've seen this, people don't even remember what happened. And I don't remember my babyhood, so to speak, like from here, but this part remembers. And of course, I mean, the head and the brain and everything is part of your cellular memories, but it's not intellectualized. It's not something that I had to talk about, because the body remembers.
I do human design, which is similar to, related to astrology, and I think it's very similar. The things in the chart describe the sorts of lessons that I'm here to learn, or the sorts of experiences I'm here to have. And so, you know, that's what I hear you talking about. And the experiences that were so intense for you helped you learn the lessons that you're here to learn.
What I would say is, a lot of times when people talk about the ascendant, which is the first house, and the sign and the planet that rules your chart, is that they talk about it as a mask. And I just say, absolutely not. We don't wear masks. We do what we can to deal with life the best we can. And I see the ascendant and the first house as your invitation to you, and how you get out into the world. So I see it as a portal, and we all need a portal. We all have a door to our home. You know, you need a door to get in and out, and that's not a mask. It's just that there it is. So I also see it totally based on my own experience. That planet, that you evolve your survival mechanisms, which means that someone who has Aries as their first house, they have Mars as their ruling planet. Or if you have Taurus, you have Venus, and then you will explore and develop those talents to survive. It's the invite, it's how you get out and what you show to the world, but it's also how you explore and use and get that planet on your side, because you need that planet and you need that sign to be able to survive whatever you have to go through. And that is how I see the ascendant and the first house and the rising sign. It's a part of your survival kit. It's your best friend when things get hard.
So tell our audience about the difference that it makes having conscious awareness of the configurations of your chart, where the planets are in the signs, and how that conscious awareness helps them be able to live their life, recognizing the gifts and being more intentional.
Wow, that's well, for anyone listening, this is not rehearsed. So I see the chart. I used to say that the chart is a roadmap, but today I would more say that it is, in a way, it is a roadmap, but it really is a map of the landscape. So it's not like straight roads. You go here and you go there. And so sometimes you see the straight path is this way, but that is like over the lake. So you have to go around, and sometimes you have to go down or up a hill, or so you have to find out what are the challenges, because we all have challenges in our chart, and where can I find ease, and what can I mitigate, and how can I use this. So when you know that, certain things become just so much easier. And also, I really, when I started to study my own chart and understand certain things, I realized how come it was and is. So I would have to do this little quotation mark here. Easy for me to work with people because I have a grand trine that includes Mars and the moon and my midheaven and Jupiter and the connector, which is Venus. So these 4 planets and this crucial point are all connected in water, and water means that I'm intuitive, I'm psychic, I'm psychological, I'm deep, blah, 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 all of these beautiful things. And this Mars that I was talking about is what helps me penetrate into people's own denials. It's what makes me dare to challenge people when they are BSing themselves. And I'm not saying that to degrade that, because the BSing, the bullshitting of yourself, which I have done myself, so I'm always talking from my own experience at the same time, is also a question of how do I cope. So when you reach that, you have to both call it out, but really call it out from a position of, I want you to be good to yourself. I want you to live a life where you can look yourself in the mirror and say, I want to be her. Because that is something I have experienced myself. And the difference in your life, when you can use the chart to confirm both your challenges and those things that really are part of your beauty, of your genius. People talk about, the shadow, and every time people talk about the shadow, it's like it's something bad, your shadow side. But I advocate for, in your shadow, you also hide the most amazing and gifting and glorious parts of yourself. Because if you're walking around beating yourself over your head and saying, I don't measure up, that also means that those parts of you that more than measure up are hidden. You don't see them. And where are they hidden? In the shadows. So shadow work is for me not only about talking about, I'm such a bad person over there in the shadows. No, on the contrary, over there in the shadows, the beauty, the glory of you is residing and waiting for you to show up and say, welcome home.
I believe, and I think you do similarly, that our soul knows when to be born. So the planets will be in the places where they need to be for me to have the experiences I'm coming to have.
Absolutely. I mean, that's absolutely it. If I had not had my Capricorn rising, it took 26 hours for my mother to get me up there. I was waiting for my Capricorn rising. Yes, yes, totally. So, and apparently, I'm meant to be here. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. And I also want to say that to everyone who's listening. We are living in challenging times, and you are meant to be here at this point. And I also think that if you take your journey seriously, it is important to go on this quest. Who am I in front of myself? And that changes during life, and that we need help. I saw you did a post, Sandra, about this, and I say this all the time too, that we cannot go on this quest, do this hero journey by ourselves. We need other people. We are human beings, which means that we need other people. We need our herd. We need the crowd around us. Our what's it called? Yes, sammanhang. Swedish word would just jump in instead of English one. But we need this place where we feel our tribe, where we feel this is my home. This is where I live. And if we don't get help when we need help, if we don't ask for help, which can be really hard, and it was for me to ask for help, it still is. It's one of my challenges in life, to ask for help. So if I just cover another small part of my life, is that I had very narcissistic parents that were not very interested in my struggles and my disability and all of that. So that too made me very alone. I really had to go on this painful journey by myself. Very, very much so. And that has made it hard for me to ask for help. And I also was a child that never, ever, 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 did I say ever? Cried. Never. No matter how hard it was. So I had to go through therapy to learn to cry. Now I can cry online. If you watch this presentation I did, it's on LinkedIn about Mars. I get into tears, and I cried before online, and I'm so happy that I can do that now, because crying is a part of being human. Nobody thinks it's bad if you laugh online. I laugh a lot, but I never apologize for it. Of course, nobody apologizes for laughing out loud online. But as soon as people start crying or get very emotional, in that respect, because laughing is also emotional, but they get emotional in the respect of showing pain and grief and sorrow, they start to say, I'm sorry. I never say that. Had I not gone through therapy, I probably would, I wouldn't even cry. I wouldn't even cry. So that part of you that is like full and at home with all your feelings and everything you have experienced, is part of like releasing out of your what looks like self-destructive behavior, and being more at home with yourself. And for me, from what I've seen in my chart, there's so many things that I understand so much better about myself, both about what is called weaknesses and what is called strengths. I see them much more clearly, and I can also take the chart and understand, how can I use this to my advantage now? Because when I look at what's going on, with the Mars retrograde, and it's in my 8th house, it's like, yeah, I have some things that I have to deal with in my 8th house, and this is the time. And it feels like, and at the same time, it's good. It's going to be really good. Challenging for sure. This I know, because my Mars retrogrades are always challenging. But I also know that this is the time to do what I know I need to do, that I have been postponing. And just because I can see into my chart, I also know that this is the time. Now, do not wait, because next year is like, it's going to be something else. Nobody has any idea.
I think this is probably a powerful time for everybody.
Yes.
And so for you watching this wonderful interview with Stella, be aware that this is your time, that you have value to contribute here, and you're here for a reason. So Stella, this has been wonderful. Do you have a final message that you want to leave people with?
Yes. Yes, I get chills here now on my legs. I want to say, and for a lot of people, this is only like words, but this is really coming from a place. So this is so much more than words, and it's really is hooked into what I've been talking about today. There is nothing wrong with you. Whatever you have perceived as wrong, or whatever you think you have to better yourself, remember that this, whatever that is what got you here. It's part of your genius. It doesn't mean that you need to do that anymore, but there's nothing wrong with you here and now. We are always constantly evolving, provided that we do take our personal journey seriously and have a desire to evolve. But the permanence of change is real. And therefore, wherever you are on your journey right now, it's the right place to be. There is nothing wrong with you today. There was nothing wrong with you before, and there will never, ever be anything wrong with you.
What a powerful message. So, for you out there in the audience, take that in. There is nothing wrong with you. And that will continue to be true. I know I go in and out of judgments about myself. And so to remember there is nothing wrong. Thank you for that powerful lesson. So, how can people connect with you, Stella?
The best way, if you just want to like follow along, is to go to LinkedIn, Stella Scott, the Queen Coach. And I'm the Queen Coach not because I am the queen. I am the queen in my life, but I also help women to be the queens in their own lives. So I help you get into your own queendom. So Stella Scott, the Queen Coach on LinkedIn, and also have an app, Cosmic Strategies, and you can find that both on Google Play and on Apple Store, whatever it's called. And there I post about astrology, personal developments. Some things are old, like 10 years old, because they're still valid, and new articles, and also like interviews and I have contributors also. So those two places are the best ways. And I'm on LinkedIn just about every day. So you can find me on Facebook, but it's not the best place. I feel much more comfortable on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much, Stella, for sharing your wisdom and your experience with us. And thank you to all of you who are out there watching now or in the future. This has been Sandra Lee and Stella Scott with Tuning Up to Thrive Conversations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.